Welcome to Gadgets for Families, the tech podcast for the family IT person or anyone else trying to get more out of their lives through tech. I'm your host, Jay Benjamin.
And I'm your host, Greg Henningham. Thank you for tuning into this trailer episode. We hope that over the next few minutes, we'll convince you to come back for the official launch of the podcast on May 10th.
We've been working on this idea for quite some time, and we're excited to finally be able to share it with you. We absolutely love our gadgets and most anything tech, at least when it's working. We also find ourselves in an unenviable position to have to support these devices for friends, families, neighbors, coworkers, or anyone else that are in our personal circles, and sometimes it's not great.
Yeah, I know for me, there are times when I wish I was not the go-to person, but I do love my gadgets, so that's unlikely to change anytime soon. So what we're envisioning is a podcast where those of you that can relate to these feelings can turn to for assistance and even maybe refer some of those friends, families, coworkers, or whoever else you're supporting to the podcast so they can get their own assistance there.
Technology has become one of the largest aspects of our lives, but it's not always a good thing. Depending on how you use that tech determines whether you're going to have a good or a bad experience with it.
And as the podcast moves forward, we'll cover a variety of topics, but our goal is to help you and your customers, family members and friends, get more out of your lives through technology. Think about things like tips and tricks, aha moments, practical advice, and information you can start using immediately. And then for those of you that like to geek out like we do, deep dives into topics. So if you have or use tech in your life, there will be something in this podcast for you.
So for the launch week, what we want to do, we have 3 episodes planned. First, we want to introduce ourselves and give you some of our tech origin stories. We also want to give you a baseline of where we are starting tech-wise. Just a heads up, we are Apple guys. We both love our Apple devices, but we also love just about anything that works good. So we'll also cover things like services from Microsoft, Google, gaming companies, things like that. So we think you'll find some variety weaved in here and there.
So Jason, if we're telling our origin stories, do we have to admit to whether we're superheroes or not?
We do. We have to finally disclose our secret identities.
All right. If you want to know what we're talking about, look for the Origin Stories episode of Launch Week. But to wrap up Launch Week, we're going to give you a prototype episode. So we'll call it episode 1. And essentially that means if you listen to that one, you'll know how our episodes are going to flow, what kinds of topics, news, all of those kinds of things that we're going to cover. So that's the one that's going to tell you what the rest of the podcast will be like.
So I hope you'll join us. You can hit that subscribe button or follow button right now where you're listening to this podcast to be notified when those episodes drop.
You can also follow us on Instagram or Twitter at Gadgets for Families with no vowels. GDGTS, the number 4, FMLS. Once we get going, we'll have some other ways for you to follow us and to get great content and resources to help you in that family support role.
So until then, keep on keeping on.
And know that help is on the way.